Hello there and welcome. This is Liesel Tevisham and I have with me today a very special guest. Her name is Emmi and she's an energy medicine practitioner and a shamana dedicated to the path of the sacred feminine. She is the founder of the Feminine Revered program and she works with women all over the world. She facilitates deeply transformational healing processes that are based on healing modalities that she's mastered, guidance from her ancestors and other guides, as well as her own life and soul experiences. And on a personal note, I met Emmi a while ago on a workshop we both attended, and I was immediately struck by her soft, kind, peaceful, gentle energy. And I'm sure that's what you'll experience with us today. So welcome, Emmi.
Thank you, Liesel. Thanks so much. It's my absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you also for that introduction.
You're welcome, and I can't wait for what you have to share with us today. So please let us know, how did you become involved in energy medicine and healing work?
Thank you. Well, I have always, or at least as long as I can remember, been intrigued by the healing arts. I've always loved the world of ritual and ceremony and been drawn to shamanic practices and indigenous cultures and the way indigenous people view the world and how they view life in general. And I got into meditation and started to experiment with breath work already as a teenager. And in my early 20s, as I was studying in London, I also started to study shiatsu, which is a beautiful, gentle form of massage or body work. And from that, from the experience with shiatsu, I have then branched out and studied various other modalities as well, including Reiki, EFT, also known as tapping, matrix re-imprinting, and I also do various forms of shamanic practices and, as of late, also goddess healing. And my own personal life experiences, especially those times that have been very tough, have really been wonderful launching pads in a way for me to utilize those modalities that I've learned on myself, and they've really helped me to deal with those difficult life experiences and situations, and in many cases pulled me out of a pretty deep hole as well. So everything that I do is based on my own life experiences, as you mentioned in the introduction, and I use the modalities that I've learned to help myself as well.
I believe that's the best way, is to start from inside out and take care of ourselves first before we even begin to help others. And it sounds like that's exactly the beautiful path that you're on, and with a very large toolbox to now assist other people with. I love
Sure.
that.
Thank you.
And so, Emmi, that's been quite a journey, I hear, and it's been important in your own life to deal with those big challenges that's come your way. That's one important way or reason for doing the work that you do. But what else? Why is the work that you do important?
Thank you. That's a very good question. We're currently in the midst of a global and a massive paradigm shift, where we're moving from a patriarchal or male-led or male-dominated paradigm into a more feminine one. And you may have heard about the Me Too movement, which has globally raised awareness and really brought to light the type of abuse and violence that women have been facing all around the world for a long time now. But of course, what has been exposed by the Me Too movement is really just the tip of the iceberg. You see, a long time ago, us women used to be revered for our power. We used to be respected and revered for our power to create, birth and nurture life. Our menstruation, our monthly bleeds were recognized as being sacred. And the menstrual blood itself was known to contain deeply healing properties. Our wombs were also seen as portals into huge wisdom, ancient wisdom, and other dimensions, as well as healing properties that all women possess by virtue of having a womb, whether that's a physical womb inside our bodies, or in the case of those who've had their wombs removed, an energetic womb that still keeps functioning on the energetic level.
Mm.
Our intuition, our connection to the spiritual realms was also revered, seen as something highly important and highly useful. Now, the challenge was that because we were so powerful, men started to fear that power and felt that they had to start dominating women, to suppress that power and silence our voices. And if you think back, for example, to the witch hunts in the Middle Ages, women were literally forced, in the fear of their lives, to renounce other women, their mothers, their daughters, their sisters, their best friends, as witches, in order to survive the persecution that was taking place. And can you just imagine the terror and the fear and the sense of shame and betrayal that enveloped women and also men during those times? And the wounds from those times still remain. It's been scientifically proven that our bodies and our cells hold on to memories from our parents, from our grandparents, from our ancestors, and from the collective experience of humanity overall. And we also now know through scientific research that traumatic experiences in our early childhood create lifelong beliefs and patterns in the way we function in the world and how we view ourselves and how we view the world around us, that often are functioning on a very subconscious level, but can truly hold us back. And many of us continue to hold on to such kinds of beliefs and continue to silence our voices, continue to hold back, and struggle with setting boundaries, struggle with saying no. And for many of us, we also struggle to trust other women around us and struggle to form lasting relationships, struggle to form working relationships with other women as well. And it all stems from this collective and personal wounding that we carry to different levels and different aspects of in our lives at the moment. And it isn't until we as individuals start to work on ourselves that we start to really look deeply into those wounds and to release them through different healing modalities, that we can improve our lives and then also as a result heal the collective, heal the women who came before us and heal women who come after us. So that's what I do. That's why I do the work that I do.
Emmi, those are very powerful reasons. I hear that it is not only about today, it is about everybody who went before us, and therefore if their memories, cell memories are on our bodies, what we do today is in our follow-up generations' bodies as well. So it's almost like a responsibility to do as much as we can to heal the patterns.
Yes, absolutely. And it's not often easy work. It can be quite painful to look into these wounds. But at the same time, if you do that work, the potential and the possibilities and the opportunities that open up for you are just limitless.
I love that. I get goosebumps thinking about that. So wonderful, wonderful work. And certainly enough reasons for us to climb into this, each and every one of us. And so I'm hearing a lot about the feminine, and I know also with the Me Too movement, there was quite a lot of backlash from some men. I think that can feel very uncomfortable, blamed, even criticized, judged, all of that. So how do you find that men react to your work?
Yeah, another really good question. And I'm sure there's men out there who are scared by the work that I do. But on a more serious note, we need to remember that all of us, whether we are men or women, carry both feminine and masculine energies within our bodies. It's like the yin and the yang concept within our personal selves.
Mm.
And it's also important to remember that this is not about men versus women. This is not about trying to glorify one sex over the other. On the contrary, it's about restoring a more harmonious balance between the masculine and the feminine, and restoring the power and the beauty of the feminine energies that have been suppressed and oppressed for so long. So it's about understanding that, yes, women are powerful. Our energies are magnificent, and there's nothing to fear in that.
Mm. I love that. So it is, I love that piece about it's about the balance, because for a long time there has been imbalance. And perhaps before there was another imbalance. So we're just trying to restore the balance within each one of us and globally between people. Right.
Absolutely. And I truly believe that it's only once we have restored that balance, and once we again live in a more harmonious way between the masculine and the feminine, that we're going to start seeing massive impact on a global scale, massive healing on a global scale as well.
That's lovely. And I know that you're not alone in this work. And I also think that, you know, it's so necessary for women to connect over this and to sort of, it's almost like a collective work that is busy happening, and so important to make a place for yourself to do this beautiful work. Yes. So then I'm wondering, if there are wounds, because you talked about that it's we all have masculine and feminine inside of us, both sides. Are there certain wounds that impact women and men in different ways?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I do believe that. Although we do share certain wounds, both men and women, because of our unique biological makeup and because of the collective experience of the female or of the feminine over hundreds and hundreds of years, there are certain wounds that are especially pertinent to women specifically. And in my program, I call these the 5 core feminine wounds. And these core feminine wounds include the motherhood or the mother wound, the sister wound, the menstruation wound, the body wound, and the womb wound. And the mother wound is all about our relationships with our own mothers. So you may have had a mother who's very authoritarian and controlling, or perhaps on the other extreme, your mother was distant, suppressed herself, and wasn't able to support you in the way that you had hoped to, either as a child or as an adult. Or perhaps your mother passed on when you were small, and there's that gap in your life ever since then. But it could also relate to your own experiences as a mother or as a to-be mother. So, for example, how do you relate to your own children? How is your relationship to your daughter or to your son?
Mm-hmm.
Or have you perhaps lost your child, either through miscarriage or an abortion? Or did you experience a stillbirth or the early death of your child? And all of these experiences are going to result in certain kinds of wounds that you will then carry and grieve and often feel ashamed of, until you then start to work on them and release them.
Mm.
In relation to the sister wound, this is all about relationships that we have with other fellow women. Many of us find that it can be very difficult to trust other women. So many of us find ourselves comparing ourselves to other women, thinking that others are better than we are. And many have gone through experiences of betrayal, some on a very large scale and some on a smaller scale. And this is all about the collective experience of women manifesting itself in wounds that are unique to our own life and soul experiences. In relation to the menstruation wound, this relates to not just our first bleeds, our menarche, but also our current relationship to our monthly bleeds.
Mhm.
Very often, young girls are not taught sufficiently about their first bleeds or menstruation overall. And for a lot of girls, the time that they get their first period can be scary and can be very shameful, where in actual fact, it actually is a cause for celebration. It's a wonderful initiation into womanhood, and it brings about so much wisdom and understanding about your own body and the collective bodies of women as well. And if you think about your experiences with bleeding as you're an adult, how conscious are you aware of your cycles? Are your periods very painful? Do you experience a lot of premenstrual syndromes, PMS? Do you get very irritated and angry or sad just before or during your menstruation? And do you consider your bleeds a nuisance? Something to get annoyed about? Something that's really preventing you from leading your life the way you should? You've seen all these commercials about ladies in tight white jeans advertising pads or tampons, going about their lives as if nothing is happening. Whereas our cycles are actually a way for us to really understand our bodies and understand our lives at a much more intricate, deeper level as well. And understanding when we need to retreat and rest, and understanding when we're going to have more energy and we can really push forward with projects. Of course, in the current patriarchal or masculine paradigm, there's not a lot of room for that. If you are in an 8 to 4 o'clock job, you need to go there every day, no matter how you're feeling, no matter how heavy your bleeds are, no matter how tired you are.
Right.
And in relation to the body wound again, this is a biggie for me, for example. We live in a society where materialism is highly revered. We live in a society where we have a very narrow notion of what beauty means and a very narrow notion of how bodies should look like.
Yeah.
There isn't a whole lot of room for diversity. And we often spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars going through crazy exercise routines, literally torturing our bodies to make them look a certain way, and spending loads of money on beauty regimes, buying cosmetics, going through even surgery for many women to
Yes.
look and feel a certain way. Instead of realizing that our bodies truly are our temples, and the more we accept ourselves exactly the way we are, the more pleasure and joy and sensuality we're going to have in our lives. And then
Beautiful.
finally, the womb wound. This is perhaps the least known of the wounds, but it's also perhaps the most powerful one. Many of us are completely disconnected from our womb space. So the lower part of our bellies that houses our wombs. And men, by the way, have an energetic womb as well.
Oh my
But for
gosh.
but for um, we often feel disconnected. We don't pay a lot of attention to that part of our body. We know that the womb is there. And even if we've had children, we don't have that conscious connection with the womb. Importantly, we also carry a lot of cellular memories around sexual abuse and violence, collective experiences of hysterectomies, collective experiences of, well, negative sexual experiences also become stored inside the womb, whether it's your own experience or that of the collective of women all around the world. And it's only through working on this and consciously forming a more organic connection with the womb through certain kinds of sacred feminine practices that you will start to see a whole new world emerging for yourself. And there's such deepness and such understanding about yourself and your body once you start to work consciously with that womb space as well.
Oh my gosh, Emmy, this was so interesting and so revealing to me. And it's amazing how many issues there are in each one of these spaces. There are just so many that I could, put my hand up and say, wow, yes, oh my goodness, this is a place where I've had some issues. So I can
Yeah.
just see how all of this beautifully actually fits together. So it's not just this piece or a sister piece or a mother piece, but it all sort of relates to each other. And
Yes.
it's a very rich, I want to say niche, but it's not really niche, but an area that you've chosen to, or maybe that you were called to, not consciously chosen, I don't know. So it's
Yeah.
such a rich area that you are working in now. And
Mm.
given that there's so much going on in these spaces, what do you offer us, Emmi? What is involved in these transformational healing processes that you can help us with?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the Feminine Revered program takes women on transformational journeys. So you join me on a journey of healing and transformation. There are three distinct yet interlinked pathways that I will take you on. Pathway number one is known as rebirth. And that's the pathway where we look at how these wounds manifest themselves in your life. And we start to discover what kinds of gifts and treasures these wounds also hold. I should have mentioned already a little bit earlier that although the wounds can be very painful, they also hold so much wisdom. And there's so much potential for healing when you start to work with these wounds as well. So that's pathway one. In pathway two, we then start to look more closely at feminine wisdom that we all already have within us. So we're going to be tapping into that wealth of feminine wisdom that is inside of all of us. And we're going to learn some sacred feminine practices that are all about allowing and enabling you to unleash your beauty, your innate inner beauty and sensuality, and this joy and radiance that we all should be leading from, because that's what life is about, or should be about, as anyway. And for us to be truly celebrating our womanhood and our femininity from a very deep conscious level.
Mm.
Pathway three, then, which is called reverence, is fully stepping into our power as women. So we're going to work on balancing the masculine and the feminine energies inside ourselves. And we're going to be working with three powerful feminine archetypes: the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And we're going to be learning from these archetypes and seeing how they manifest in our lives. And through this journey, we are going to be digging quite deep to find that power that all of us possess, and to truly start to lead, whether it's in our personal lives or on a larger global stage, from a place of power. So it's really about that fierce feminine who's at the same time compassionate and kind, and learning from that and walking our paths in alignment with our soul's purpose.
Mm. That sounds just lovely. And a question that came up for me is, do women who want to work with you necessarily have to go? Is it like a linear journey, pathway one, then number two, then number three? Or is it something that you will decide when you speak to a person which one will be appropriate for them? How does that work?
Um, well, all of my work is tailored to the unique life and soul experiences of my clients. So there will be a lot of flexibility once we get to know each other about which way we will go. However, I do like to start with pathway one, where we work with the wounds, because that is the foundation. Because
Right.
once you've looked into and you've started to clear some of the wounding, that's when the world opens up. And that's when it's so much easier then to tap into your innate feminine wisdom and to put these sacred feminine practices into daily use in your life as well.
Okay.
Certainly, if I'm working with a client who's already done a lot of work around wounding, many people call it shadow work. We might look at going straight into pathway 2 or pathway 3, although I'm quite certain that somewhere along the journey, there will be new aspects relating to those wounds popping up from the subconscious that we would still need to work on and process.
Yes, yes, I can't agree with you more. There's always more layers for us to uncover, and there's a continuous journey. As we start on the journey, it's a different thing to maybe when we did similar work even a year ago or 2 years ago. So the different aspects make total sense. So what I'm hearing is you laying a foundation of let's look at the wounds and get enough healing there so that it makes logical sense and sense to the nervous system and everything, and in the energy system to go on to the next step and the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Oh, that's amazing. And I bet you that there's many women sitting out there now thinking, I can't wait to hear how I can work with Emmi. So would you go ahead and share with us your website and perhaps a social media link where people can get hold of you?
Sure, absolutely. So my website is called Feminine Revered. So the address is www.femininerevered.com. And I also have a Facebook site under the Feminine Revered. So if you do a search on Facebook looking for Feminine Revered, you'll be able to find me.
Beautiful. It's easy that both of them are the same, so people will be able to find you easily. That's fantastic. Emmi, one last bit of wisdom from you, from all the work that you've done and from all the places that you've gone with this work in yourself and with other people. Is there a last bit of hope or just a little piece of your feminine wisdom that you can leave with us with today before we close down?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you join me on this journey, if you start to work with me consciously on the wounds and all the other issues that I have been explaining about, it will take you on a deep journey. It will take you on quite a big journey, and that journey is not always easy, and it can bring up a lot of painful stuff as well. But the rewards of actually undergoing that journey are huge. I cannot even begin to describe the difference that it's made in my life in terms of feeling empowered, feeling free, feeling juicily joyous, and just the sense of happiness that it has all brought into my life. So no matter how you might be feeling right now, no matter what kinds of difficulties or challenges you might be facing in your life, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And you are not alone. There are people out there who can support you.
Oh, that's beautiful. I feel like I've got tears in my eyes hearing that. That would really be such a beautiful message for me if I was sitting listening to this and I've had some trouble with various areas in my life. So thank you. That was really special. Just a lovely way to end this off. So thank you, Emmi. It was such a pleasure and a delight to have this conversation. And I know that you're going to do this beautiful work with other women in the world who are going to make a difference.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Liesl.
You're welcome.